It's season 7 of Radio Free 501c, the podcast of Rogue Tulips Consulting. We hit the 300 episode milestone this year, so don't forget to subscribe or follow us. We have a lot more to talk about. We're kicking off November as Thankful for the Arts Month here at Radio Free 501c, and I'm so delighted to welcome Shana Corrada from Dance Tampa Bay. She's here to talk with us about her favorite subject, dance, movement, and community. It's Monday, November 3rd, 2025. Welcome to episode 305. Hey, everybody. Can you believe it's already November? That's right. You better get that turkey order in and start asking your relatives what they'd like for their holiday gifts. Hi, I'm Cecilia Supp. I'm the host of Radio Free 501c, and I'm also the principal and founder of Rogue Tulips Consulting. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm really excited because we are kicking off a monthly theme for November, Thankful for the Arts. I am a writer, which is an art form. I like to sketch. Not really great at it, but I enjoy it. I love art. I love dance. I love watching people dance. I love to dance. And my first guest of our month of Thankful for the Arts happens to be a dancer, Shana Corrada, and she is a first-time guest. So before we ask Shana to introduce herself, I'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to our global audience, wherever you may be. Thanks for joining us. And if you have not yet followed us or subscribed, please do on your favorite service. We're having so many great conversations this year. You don't want to miss any of them. So Shana, thanks so much for joining me and kicking off Thankful for the Arts Month here at Radio Free 501c. Would you like to say hello to the audience and tell us a little about yourself?
I would. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on the show. It means so much to us to be recognized, to be able to talk about dance and put it out there. It's a fight of ours every single day. So anybody that is like you, a fan or loves dance, we are so appreciative of the talk that you'll give and be able to tell people about what we want to do in Tampa, about Dance Tampa Bay. I'm Shana Corrada. I'm the executive director of Dance Tampa Bay, and it's an entity that we created. Actually, it was first created in 2014, but it just didn't quite get there where it needed to get to, and didn't form it. Sometimes associations have a problem when they're first starting out, and that one did, and then COVID hit, and so it really took a long, I took a back seat. Then finally, I guess 2023, I had a lot of people over to my house. I hadn't been in the dance world for a while. It had been maybe like 5 years since I'd had people in, and I had people over, and I realized that as they were sitting around, they're from all these different entities of the dance world, that they hadn't seen each other in 5 to 10 years, and that they don't talk to each other, and that this entity, this university over here is doing their thing, and that entity's over there doing their thing, and they just never really knew what the others were doing anymore. So the point of Dance Tampa Bay really was to make sure that the universities, the studios, the professional dancers, the professional companies, Busch Gardens, commercial dancers, that they all had a place where they could all come to for resources. And those resources are not only a calendar, so everybody knows when things are happening, but also health insurance, so people can find health insurance, or maybe talk about a blog about something that they're working on artistically, a varied initiatives that we have going on in Dance Tampa Bay. So again, it was just to really unify this particular art form, because really they start to galvanize each other when you're using the same resources and you're not sharing venues, and it can be almost like eat each other out. They kind of like go at each other. I'm thinking like fish in the pond, whatever. But what they really need to do, because there's limited resources, especially now in the arts world,
Yeah.
they need to work together, and they need to collaborate and participate in things together. And that way, to survive, actually, because dance companies are very expensive to run. They really, really are. Productions are very expensive. You know, uh, just for instance, Tampa City Ballet just did a small production, and I believe the costs for just the production were $35,000 for one weekend. Oh yeah, because your choreographers, lighters, set designers, musicians, you name it. So It's a very expensive kind of art that people don't realize that it's hard to put together. So again, finding those resources and making sure that we can share is an important thing. And keeping artists here in Tampa. Oh, I could go on for a while. Because dancers, they get trained here, but then they leave. They don't stay. So, and that's another problem that we have is that, especially down in the South, and not as much now. Now it's getting better. Now it is getting better. But dancers like Patel Conservatory, which is down in Tampa, number one ballet school conservatory in the country as from Youth America Grand Prix. Tampa City Ballet has won international film awards. USF was named one of the best college dance programs in the country. Red Bull Dance Your Style, which is a hip hop dance competition. The winner was from here in 2024, which then they go on to go to the Olympics now. So you have all these really high end educational systems, and yet again they don't ever talk to each other or work together, and then the artists don't have their resources to stay, so where do they go? They go to New York, they go to Los Angeles, they go to Atlanta, they go to Miami, and we lose them. So we train them and then we lose them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, and being known as a training ground for dance is great, but I think you definitely would want those people to stay there, and maybe have dance companies, or maybe they could go on to teach. That's really, and your point about the arts needing resources, we really have always lived that way, I think. I'm an amateur historian. All through history, if artists did not have a benefactor or a patron, they would not get paid. So even Michelangelo had to have a patron in order to do his work. So when we think about dance, though, why is dance important to just as human beings? Why is that important for all of us?
I love that you asked that question. I love that question. I just did a TED Talk on Friday. And I did it with the chair of my board, John Parks, who happens to be Alvin Ailey, original company member from Alvin Ailey. He just retired. He was a USF professor for 35 years. Amazing, amazing man. He was in The Wiz on Broadway, Rage in Harlem. I mean, his resume goes on and on and on. His background and what have you. And he and the resident artist at the Straz, Fred Johnson, we did a we did a group together. We did a speech together for TED Talk. And their portion was really about what dance does to you as a human being. The way that movement, they actually, doctors actually clinically say you're alive if they see you're moving. When you're first born, your breath is the first movement that you make. So it's really about connecting your breath, the movement of your body, and physically, you're getting more flexible, you're cardiovascular, physically, there's a lot of things that are going on that are helping your body to be rejuvenated and keep well. But mentally, also, they have tracked that in neurosciences that they can see how movement enhances your dopamines, your chemicals in your brain. It actually scientifically improves your outlook on life, your being, your whole well-being, as one. And I think that people now are starting to look at the well-being of a whole person instead of just, separating the physical and they don't separate anymore. They realize that it's one being. A good friend of mine, Joanna Mendelshaw, she's actually the head of Equus Projects, and it's actually, believe it or not, I did this too. I dancing with horses. So I was in her company too. I worked with her as well. She has a whole program called Physical Listening. And basically, letting people look at each other, watch each other, and understand and communicate non-verbally. Now, this happens all the time in our days. In our daily life, it happens constantly. And as dancers, we call it pedestrian movement. Like even whatever it might be that you do, it's pedestrian movement. But as dancers, we look at it, we kind of don't categorize dance and movement. We put them all into the same. You don't have to be out there doing a kickball change to be dancing. You can just be moving back and forth or swaying to the music, if you will. And that improves your life. They haven't quantified it yet, but I'm sure they're getting down to that. We're saying, how many years does this add on to your life if you dance? And they also say that about music and about and art in itself in any way, that it lowers your stress levels and gives you more heightened awareness. We've known that for years. And as a dancer yourself, I think because I know that you used to dance yourself and you enjoy it, you realize that you're using different parts of your brain when you're learning choreography. And you're learning non-verbally quite often. You're watching, it's a visual thing. But then again, sometimes it's more of sensing, like, oh, we're all going to move this way, we're all going to move that way, especially when you're doing improv. Um, there's many different ways that dance is created and put out there, and it doesn't always have to be formal. And each entity of it has its own place and has a wellness part of it. So I think that you find somebody that's not doing so well or is having some issues and you put on some really happy music and you get to dance, you watch the mood elevate. You watch, even yourself, even
Mhm.
yourself. If you're finding tomorrow morning you wake up and you're like, I'm not feeling it, put on your favorite song and just start to move a little bit and watch how your mood changes.
Yeah, so that's so true. First of all, just for the audience, a clarification. I like to dance. I would not call me a dancer.
Everyone's a dancer. Everyone is.
Okay, everyone's a dancer. I love to dance. And I was an athlete growing up, and I also like to work out a lot. So I tend to be very more, I guess, athletic with my dancing. I like to kind of move around a lot and I like to jump up and down a lot, especially if it's a good beat. But I agree with you, Shana. I always feel better after I move. And I always like to use this quote from Cher, the singer, who loves to work out. She said, if I didn't work out, I would not be such a nice person. And I think moving around is, and I think that might be like a paraphrase, but she basically said, if I don't work out, I'm not a very nice person. So her other one that I love is she was pouring out her makeup one day as she was doing an interview and said, I don't know how many more times I can beat this face into submission, which I love. We've all had those days. So shout out to Cher, who's still
Yes.
out there doing it. But being physical does make you feel better. I've always liked to, move. I've liked to play sports. I've liked to play games like badminton and things like that, and tennis. Just taking long walks. I've always liked to move, and you're right. It really does make you feel better. And music. So one of the things I think we tie music and dance together in many ways. And I've seen the impact of music on the people where my mother-in-law lives. She lives in memory care in an assisted living community, and she's doing very well. But just seeing how they all respond to the music, and even the people who might be in a wheelchair or need a walker, they start moving. Like it's like natural to move to the music.
It's absolutely natural. My father just had two strokes
Oh,
and believe it or not, fully recovered almost fully recovered.
yes.
But the one thing that brought him back from his confusion, because that's what happens, was these familiar songs that he loved. We started to play, he's a big country music person. So we started to play, Wailing Jennings and some Johnny Cash and he came right back and started singing. For a man who couldn't open a bottle anymore or couldn't turn on a faucet anymore because couldn't remember it, but he remembered the words from Johnny Cash.
It's amazing.
Isn't that amazing? And there is physical genius, physical intelligence, and then physicality. So you look at the athletes that are, I'm Canadian, so I'll refer to Wayne Gretzky, all right, or Tom Brady or something like that. That's where you get into that. And Mitzi Copeland from American Ballet Theater, she's a physical genius. What she can understand and her awareness of her own body and and to see ahead. You look at Tom Brady when he's seeing ahead, when he doesn't know anymore, he's retired, but when he would know and focus on people and where people were going and can project where the movement was going to happen and just the velocity of how to throw the ball. All those things are also incorporated when you're working in a dance company. Because when you're on stage, things go wrong. You think that everything's going to be perfect and everything's going to be well rehearsed, but lo and behold, and I dance professionally with companies, so lo and behold, something might happen. Like say there's a lift and it includes four people, but somebody sprains their ankle just suddenly and they go off to the side. You still have to get that lift done. How's that going to happen? Or, or the soloist can't go out because her shoe just came off. That can't be a blank stage. So you better figure out what to do. I'm running out and we're going to improv. This is what's going to happen. So you're always in the game, if you will. You're always in the present. Because if you do start to think about pizza while you're out on stage, that's when things go wrong. Because that's when you know the choreography so well, you're thinking about what am I going to do later on? And that's always an issue because that's when things happen. And then I don't know if you've ever seen a performance where something went wrong, or have you seen a performance and the performer told you something went wrong, but you didn't know it?
Mhm.
That's the job of a dancer, to get out there and just be a physical, intelligent person.
Well, sometimes you can't tell that things have gone wrong with dance unless it's ballet and it's a classical version of a ballet. I love to watch ballet, and my favorite is the Marinsky
Mm,
ballet, but I don't think I'll be seeing them for quite a while with the way things are going in the world right now. I don't think they'll be coming back to the Kennedy Center anytime soon, but they tend to do really great versions of classical ballet.
mhm,
So Giselle, things like that, and they'll do it in that way. But one time they did this marvelous version of Cinderella,
mhm.
and they placed it in the early 20th century. And Cinderella's father wasn't dead, he was an alcoholic. So he would stumble on stage sometimes, kind of as the comic relief of the
Yeah.
story. And so they're very creative. And so you see things like that. So I think when you're trying to, follow the classical tradition in ballet, you're probably not going to have a lot of improv. And you're probably
No.
not, but you will notice if there's a mistake, whereas if it's more of a modern version. And you
Mhm.
said if you've ever seen something go wrong while someone's performing, we love to go to the Folger Consort at the Shakespeare Library here in Washington, D.C. Folger Shakespeare Library, I should say. And the consort plays medieval instruments.
Oh.
And they usually will have performers as well, singers. And one time we were there watching one of the concerts a few years ago, and the soprano had her book on the stand. Well, all of a sudden, the stand collapsed. She caught the book and just brought it up and held it and just kept singing. She did not miss one note. And I
Mhm.
was so impressed because you're on stage, you're in front of all these people, and you have the presence of mind to just catch the book and keep singing.
Right.
So I just love it because it shows art isn't perfect.
No, it's not perfect. And I think even inside some of those ballets, they can be mounted onto a company, and there'll be little tiny variations because your principal dancer does fouettes very, very well, so we're going to put 12 of those in there. But your principal dancer does these different jetés very, it might be just slightly different as it's produced. So they do have variations as you go on, but you're right. I mean, it is right to the T. They know every single movement. There is no improv. And that brings me to American Ballet Theater, which and the codification of American Ballet Theater. And what a great a step up for us in the United States, if you would. So modern dance was created in the United States. It was a movement to get away from exactly what you're talking about, to get away from the classical ballet. They wanted to do things that were different and explore different aspects of the human moving through space. And but in that, things were codified. Graham was codified. Ailey's Horton is codified. They have certain things that they do every single time. But our ballet hadn't been codified yet. So we had American Ballet Theater, we have NYC, we have Joffrey, there's a San Francisco Ballet. They all take a little bit from the Europeans, and they would take a little bit of Vaganova, the Russian. They would take a little bit of Royal Ballet, and they kind of push it all together, Cicchetti. And then there was no real one way to teach. So the United States named American Ballet Theater the National Ballet of the United States in 2007, and then said, codify this. I was one of the first to go through their codification and their certification and to learn step by step the proper way to teach. I actually had to write in French an entire class and have kids perform it. It's not an easy feat. And I'm not telling you, they make it difficult, but that's okay because they've raised the standard of what we know as ballet in the United States. And they really did, you did a wonderful job of letting it be loose enough that you can create your own program, but really putting the building blocks severely right there so you know exactly what to teach first and what not to teach first, you know? And I think that that changed the education in a lot of ways. And Hillsborough County was one of the first to bring into the middle school to bring American Ballet Theater curriculum into the magnet performing arts systems down here, which again lifted up our education system for dance here. And you know, but we're trying to get those artists to stay. So and I think also that I was going to talk to you about the health care for dancers as well and the longevity of a dancer. You know, back in the day, if you danced beyond 33 or 34, that was a big deal. You know,
Mhm.
you were done by that time. Bodies didn't last that long. And now I think that we have a better sense of ourself and our physical being, our physical wellness, that we have, you know, preventative medicines as well. You have so much going on in the medical industry that's helping athletes too, sports medicine and all that, right? And yet the people who need it the most often, dancers, I'm going to say dancers, don't have access to healthcare. So because they're gig workers and they work performance to performance, it's very hard to get a dance position where you're performing and that you're salaried. I was lucky. I did that for a while, and it's a very lucky spot to be in. But most of the time, you do this performance and you get paid. You rehearse, then you do this performance and you get paid. And you go between and you might have other jobs, what have you. And it really comes, you don't have enough hours and it's gig work, so you just don't have access to healthcare. So we worked with Florida Blue. And Florida Blue, fantastic partners and sponsors. I'm tell you how awesome they are. They were like, okay, let's get low cost healthcare for dancers that, you know, as long as they have some income and they can show it, that they will be able to qualify. And it's the premiums aren't going to be $250 a month. They're going to be like $35 to maybe $45 a month. And as a dancer, if you don't have health care and you sprain your ankle and you have to perform that night, do you dance and get paid, or do you not dance and go to a doctor and pay full price? You know, those are the decisions that you have to make as a dancer, and you often don't look at yourself or do any kind of prevention at all. And also, dancers are required physically right now. The dance is very athletic and very hard. You have to be a gymnast too to be a dancer. There's so much more that goes into being a professional dancer than I think in years gone by. And there's a lot asked on your body. You could just watch World of Dance or whatever you want to, or so you think you can dance and you can see some amazing tricks where they might turn in the air and then land in a split or something ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And bodies just are wearing out. We're seeing hip replacements in college, which you wouldn't see a hip replacement until, you know, you're 50 years old, you know, younger than me. But that's not the way it's happening now. So healthcare is really, really needed. So that was something, that was an initiative that we needed to bring to the community. And Florida Blue came through and they've been partnering with us and they sponsor us as well. They pay artists. I mean, it's been really good and hopeful. You know, for so long, everybody felt so hopeless. And so, oh, we're always going to be this way. This is always going to be this way. And that's what we're trying to do too, is bring up the level of standard for yourself as an artist. Don't look at me like, oh, poor artist. No, no, we need to bring ourselves up to a certain point where, you know, we respect ourselves and other people respect us too, right?
Right.
So healthcare is a part of that. So
I agree. First of all, you struck on something that is a principle I try to live by, which is everything doesn't have to stay the same. It's not always going to be that way because we can make different choices. We can reach out, we can collaborate, we can partner, we can find somebody who's willing to be supportive, like Florida Blue. So I want to say thank you, Florida Blue, for supporting all the dancers
you rock.
because of all the arts, dance is probably the most physically demanding. And yes, you could say, well, but, or yes, but about singing with the voice, but you can keep singing when you're over 35. It's not so easy to dance over 35. And one of the other things I really love is the art of film. I'm an old movie buff, and actually I like a lot of different kind of movies, but I often think of Gene Kelly's quote about the problem with being a dancer is by the time you master your instrument, which is your body, it starts to fail you and you
Yes,
can't dance anymore.
you got it. Oh my gosh, it's a perfect quote.
Yeah.
So
And he
true.
was, and when you think about how he used to dance, it was like watching a professional athlete.
I
He was
know.
very muscular. He would leap through the air. And then you compare that to Fred Astaire, who's a real master because he made it look like anybody could do it. He made it look very smooth and easy, very graceful. But
Absolutely.
that was hours and hours of practice and work. And he also got to the point where he couldn't really dance anymore. And when you think about some of the things they've done, like if you've ever seen the movie Holiday Inn, and Fred Astaire did that fantastic July 4th improv dance, which he probably rehearsed for 20 hours before he improved it in the movie. But it's really a lot of efforts, a lot of work.
It is.
I used to be the managing director at a nonprofit arts group called Tappers with Attitude that had a tap dance school and two in-house companies, one for kids and one for grown-ups. And just watching how hard they had to work, and it was all their feet and their legs, and they did use their whole body, but so much of it is, of course, the feet because it's percussive art, and it's that beat of the feet, so to speak, that really made it the art form it is. And that's one of the only American art forms actually is tap dance, not percussive art, but tap dance. And they also did classes in other percussive arts like hand sound or clapping. We might call it clapping. And just it was really a great place. I did not take any of the classes because I said somebody here needs to keep a level head about the finances, and if I get swept up into the art, I'll I will lose my focus. So we've touched on a lot of different things, Shana. And of course, I love the arts. I do my best to support them. I like to go to museums and look at art. I like to go to see things at the Kennedy Center and other programs, concerts, love it. I love really pretty much any way that humans express themselves. I love stand-up comedy. I love film. I love plays because we're just constantly exploring our existence on this planet. And whether you're a dancer or a writer or a painter or a sculptor or a filmmaker or some other kind of performer, it's really commentary on the human experience. And that's a lot of what's reflected in the nonprofit community. You brought people together. That's community. You made connection, you made collaboration, you have a certification, which is an important thing within the nonprofit management community. You make sure people get services that they need. So if you were to tell someone one thing about why they should support the arts, what would that be?
Well, I would say that for me, the arts are our signature. So there are who we are, really. So, and I'm saying that as an experience of traveling with my husband. So my husband is the head of Visit Tampa Bay, tourism. And wherever we go, we talk about the arts and culture of Tampa. And that's what we bring to people. And we want people to come and we want them to experience it. It's, to me, it's knowing who you are. And so I think that it's important for everybody to have some sort of art experience in their life because it gives them their voice of who they are and what they believe in, what they stand for. Um, but it also brings us to a playing field where everybody has equality in some ways. I truly think that it's hard to distinguish. I know there's a judgment out there of like that's a better piece or that's better or this is but I think that the eye is in the beholder. So you might find something completely wonderful and beautiful that I don't cherish or I don't see that way, or I might just say, oh yeah, it's nice, but it's not my thing. And then again, I might find this play or this ballet that's just, it makes me cry every time I see it or hear it, and it touches my soul and it makes me feel alive because I'm connected to it. And either whether I'm creating it or whether I'm like just experiencing it, it makes me alive. And I think that's why it works with people who are having that are having strokes or they need it brings them back to their humanity, to their voice, to who they are, to what they love. And I think it solidifies that for us. And I think if you can't, and especially for us, we're going out and we're selling Tampa to the world. We need to love Tampa, and we need to know what we we need to know what we love. And so, yes, we love our flamenco dancers. We love our culinary and our Spanish, influences that we have here. We have a Cuban, a Latin quarter. We love our arts, and that's what we want to give to the world. So, I don't know. I think that's, if I said it correctly, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that's really, no, I think that's well said. And you touched on several levels of that experience. And I really love that you pointed out that art doesn't have the same message for all of us, because one person will look at it and say, oh, I don't get it. And another person will say, oh, it's so deep. I love it. And this is why I never use the tape recorded tours in museums,
Mm-hmm.
because they tell you too much about the piece and you can't react to it and see what it means to you or how it feels, because somebody on that recording is influencing your viewpoint of it.
And that's about being in the presence.
Yeah.
That's about being in, and it's your present. It's not their present, it's your present. You get to decide what
Yes.
that feeling is. I agree totally, completely.
Yeah. And that's why I don't do that. And my husband doesn't do it either, because we're like, we want to have that experience
Mhm.
and feel it. I do try to, we have the Hirshhorn Museum of Modern Art here in Washington. I'll be upfront and honest. I'm not a huge fan of modern art because a lot of it doesn't speak to me, but I do try to go and look at it. I used to go once a year until the pandemic. So I haven't been there for a while, but I would challenge myself, go look, see, maybe something, this trip will speak to you, and if it doesn't, that's okay. It's okay to have that reaction and say, I don't like that piece. There's people who don't like Picasso. There's people who don't like any of the Impressionists. It's what do you like and what's speaking to you? And how are you having an emotional, like you said, emotional experience from interacting with that piece of art, no matter what it is. And it's one of the reasons I love seeing exhibits where they show you how the artist created the final piece. So many years ago at the National Gallery of Art, they had an exhibit about El Jaleo, which is one of John Singer Sargent's most famous pieces. And they had all of the studies and sketches he did before he did the final piece. And a lot of us know John Singer Sargent for his portraits of the big personalities of his era, but he also did a lot of art like that, like, and El Jaleo, you would love, if you're not already familiar with it, it's about a dancer. So it's a beautiful painting, and he did a lot of work working up to it, though. And I think a lot of people don't understand the amount of effort that goes into creating that piece of art. If somebody's doing a stand-up routine, how many hours they've practiced it, how many hours they've polished the words, how many hours you put in, Shana, dancing, choreographing, getting everybody to rehearsal, making sure everybody knows what they're going to do. Writing, people think writing is easy. It's not. You go through many drafts before you get something that you feel is good enough. Like most writers, I never feel my work is good enough, but that's, it's just part of being a writer. But this has been a great conversation about art as a wonderful kickoff to our Thankful for the Arts Month. And it looks like you are on the move for those who are listening. Okay, so you are moving back, okay, to this other position. So, well, Shana, I want to thank you again for joining me and talking about dance. Like I've said, I'm a huge fan of dance. I love it. I try to support it. And like many of us, I like to shimmy a little bit myself now and then when I hear a good beat that you can dance to, as they used to say on what was that music show? I think in the 60s, I think that it was an American. Oh, yeah, I think it was American Bandstand. They'd ask them to rate the songs, and it's got a good beat and you can dance to it. That's all that matters. So, but Shana, I'd like to ask my guests, what is the one thought you would like the audience to take away today? And then how can they get in touch with you if they have more questions or if they want to learn more about Dance Tampa Bay?
Well, I think the last thing that I'd like to leave them with is a city that dances together, rises together. And we have a program called Dance Rising, which is actually started in New York, and it was because of COVID. And dance was falling away, as it usually does, is the first to go, you know. So they decided to record all the dancers together, put them on Times Square, on the marquee, letting people know that, hey, we're still here, right? And I think that we do a film series as well, and you can find it on our website, which is dancetampabay.net. And if you go into the gallery, you'll see these films that we've created because we're the first city outside of New York City. We do it in partnership with them to do Dance Rising Tampa Bay. And we have found, and then people would send us their videos of them dancing around Tampa or the Hillsborough or Pinellas and Bay Area. They send it to us. We put them together, and we have a great creative producer too. So they're really nice films. And we showed one of them again on TED Talk called "The Power of Water," and I think that for us, being able to connect through dance, through film, through art, being unified has brought us together finally. Like we're finally accomplishing what we had set out to do, unifying. And what happens? What's the product of that unifying? What happens then? Your city grows and it starts to rise and things get, you know what I mean? And you can feel it getting bigger and bigger and bigger and you feel proud of your art. So I would say, number one, if you need community, it doesn't matter where you are and you're a dancer, even if you're not a dancer, come find us because we just love to collaborate and talk. But then again, you want to see some nice films, you want to connect with other people, collaborate, come to our website, again, dancetampabay.net. We just love our artists, we love our people, so we kind of embrace whoever comes our way. And we try to really hard to get them jobs and make sure that they are successful, because if they're successful, then we're successful. You know? That's the way
Yeah.
it works. And thank you so much, by the way, for having this discussion because you're a piece of the puzzle, and that's important.
Oh, thank you. And like I said, I like to do what I can to help get the word out and get support for the arts and get people thinking about it. So thanks again for joining me.
You're welcome. My pleasure. It's such my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh, you are welcome. And well, we do have to go rogue for now, but don't miss the rest of our fantastic November episodes. Thankful for the arts. This is just the first conversation. You can imagine what the rest are going to be like. And if you listen to all of them, you're going to be so uplifted. Take my word for it. Trust me. So, but if you'd like to learn more about Rogue Tulips Consulting and how we can help your organization bloom outside the box, check out our website, roguetulips.com. You can look at our services page. You can find this episode featuring Shana on the podcast page and share it with your friends and colleagues and check out our library of past episodes. We've surpassed 300 episodes and we still have a lot to talk about. So check out our episodes there. You can read my blog every week to find out what the heck I'm talking about because you never know what I'm going to say. And if you are interested in getting some ongoing professional development via our online education program, please check that out as well on our education page. We try to make everything easy to do and easy to find. So thanks again for joining us. And a gentle reminder, if you haven't subscribed or followed us on your favorite service, please do because you don't want to miss any of these episodes. So on behalf of Shana and myself, we'll see you next time. That's it for this week. I hope you really loved this episode as much as I did. Thanks for listening. Learn more about how our experience and knowledge at Rogue Tulips can give your organization the strategic edge to reach its goals. Check out our website at roguetulips.com. We'd love to talk with you and see how we can work together. Thanks.